Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 24th, 2018.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services, cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
105 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, it is my distinct honor and privilege to have him on once again. You know him, you love him. Senator Rand Paul, Kentucky Republican. Senator, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Senator, I've got to ask you, obviously, it's the big question of the day. Everybody's talking about it. My audience is talking about it. You were initially a no on Mike Pompeo to be the next Secretary of State. However, you tweeted out last night that you had several conversations with the president. You are now a yes. So let me ask you this. Mike Pompeo, at least in the past, was for the Iraq War. He was for regime change in Iran and generally a supporter of the Arab Spring. You have been against the Iraq War, against regime change, and generally think we should pull out of the Middle East, which, by the way, I agree with 110%. Why the change, Senator?
Well, I think you've really encapsulated my position very well and the problem that I've had in the past with supporting Pompeo. So for months, actually, I've been very vocal that I thought he was too much of a hawk, too much of someone who didn't really incorporate the lessons of the Iraq War. You know, one of the things I always liked about President Trump was that he was pretty darn explicit about it, that the Iraq War was a mistake, led to chaos in the Middle East, led to the rise of Iran, emboldened Iran, and it generally just was a bad idea. And so I've asked Pompeo, I asked him in the committee hearing, was the Iraq War a mistake? And I really didn't get much of an answer. So the president did call me in the last few days, called me last week and said, will you have a personal meeting with him? And so out of respect for the president, I did have a personal meeting with him. He tried to assure me that he wasn't a neoconservative, that he had incorporated lessons from the Iraq War, and that really he understood that there had been a lot of mistakes in our foreign policy over the last 20 or 30 years. I still struggled with whether to support him or not. I talked to the president again and again. So I talked to the president 3 times in the last week. And the one thing that's interesting about my conversations with the president is he sounds a lot like I do on the policy that we've been at war too long in too many places. And so he says he really does want, it is his goal to get us redirected towards problems we have here at home, and that we spend too much money on the war in Afghanistan, too much money throughout the Middle East. And so it is heartening to me to hear the president. The president says, look, I make the decisions. I'm not going to be influenced. And my response back to him is, I'm worried about people being around you and surrounding you with advisors who actually think that we should stay forever in Afghanistan. And so it was this jockeying back and forth. And but I was able to get an assurance from both the president and from Pompeo that there was an admission that the Iraq War was a mistake on Pompeo's part, and that the Afghan War, really, we need to find a resolution. I've also been assured that we'll hear that publicly, and I hope that's true, that we will hear publicly from Pompeo that he has some new ideas about the Middle East and about our failures there. But I also had one other conversation with the president in the midst of all this, and it caused the president and I to be engaged on a level that we haven't been for a few months. And that's over whether or not FBI agents should have to get a warrant to search an American in these foreign surveillance databases. And I think there have been some real abuses. You know, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page have shown us that not everybody over at the FBI is an angel, and that there really do need to be some rules. So I spoke very specifically with the president about the possibility of an executive order that the president would order that says basically the FBI, before searching an American in these databases, would have to have a warrant. And the president's sympathetic to that. He didn't promise me he would do it, but he was open-minded to it. And my hope is in the next week or two to meet with the president over this idea of whether or not the president could require a warrant process before any American has their data or their information looked at by FBI agents. And I'm hopeful that that's one thing that will come out of this nominating process. And so only time will tell where Pompeo winds up. But I actually am encouraged that he's been to North Korea and that the president is open to negotiation in North Korea. So there's a lot of positive things that have come out of my taking a position, keeping my position, and really getting to the administration to engage.
Senator, I want to move on to some other topics, but do you think Pompeo has the votes to be confirmed?
Yes.
Senator, on Afghanistan, did the president tell you explicitly he wants to pull the troops out?
I think I would put it differently. I think I would say that the president, if I were to characterize the conversation, is sympathetic to my point of view. Now, my point of view would be not one more soldier. Pompeo and the Trump administration have admitted in written questioning that there is no military solution, that there really is not going to be, we're not going to have unconditional surrender of the Taliban. We just frankly aren't. They occupy 30 to 40% of the country. I think there's going to be some sort of negotiated peace settlement that allows us to leave. Like I say, since there's no military solution, I wouldn't add one more soldier. I don't think the president's necessarily there, nor is Pompeo. But when the fact that they are ready to acknowledge that there is no military solution is a big step forward. And I think that the president's position is actually much closer to my position than the neoconservative hawks that populate the halls of Congress. So, no, I'm very encouraged every time I talk to the president, and I think he tells me what is truly in his gut and in his heart, and I think the president's instincts are good on war. I just worry sometimes about the advisors, and so that's why I will continue to be very vocal with trying to make sure that there is another point of view heard.
Senator, the Iran deal, the president's meeting with French President Macron, he and Angela Merkel want the United States to stick to the Iran deal. The president says he wants to basically just pull out. Should we pull out of the Iran deal, or should we stay in the Iran deal?
Well, I wasn't a fan of it in the beginning. I thought we could have driven a better bargain. I thought the money that was released to Iran was released too early and should have been held over a period of time and gradually released to ensure compliance. That being said, though, all of the evidence, including that from the Trump administration's investigations, are that Iran has been compliant with the nuclear agreement. The things we're unhappy with Iran actually have nothing to do with their nuclear program. They have to do with their ballistic missile program. So I've kind of taken a different position. I think we should stay in the Iran agreement, but I think we should try to negotiate a ballistic missile agreement with them, and with the trade-off being that Iran could possibly have better trading ties with us if they were willing to place some restrictions on their ballistic missile program. The problem is, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that Iran does many things in reaction to what Saudi Arabia does. So the fact that we just have agreed to sell $300 billion worth of weapons to Saudi Arabia actually has, I think, made the arms race worse, and it provides an incentive for Iran to develop more ballistic missiles. So it's really action and reaction over there, and I think people need to not forget that it wasn't Iranians that attacked us on 9/11, it was Saudi Arabians. And so we do need to be very conscious and aware that there are bad players on multiple sides of these wars, but I think it's a mistake to keep sending advanced weapons to Saudi Arabia and accelerating this arms race.
Senator, I know we're pressed for time, but I want to ask you, the bombing in Syria, what are your feelings about it now in the aftermath of it? And do you think it was an illegal action on the part of the Trump administration?
I think that the Founding Fathers were very clear that the power to go to war is delegated to Congress, not to the President. Madison said that the executive branch is the branch most prone to war. Therefore, we have vested that power in the legislature. So bombs are war. Bombs are part of war. Just because there's not an ongoing bombing campaign or you don't have soldiers on the ground doesn't mean that it's an act of war. So, yes, I do believe that the president should have come to Congress and asked for permission. He's not alone in making this interpretation. So did President Obama and so did President Bush. But I don't think that that necessarily makes it right. I think that our Founding Fathers wanted us, unless you're repelling an imminent attack on the homeland or on some U.S. interest, I think that Congress needs to vote.
Senator, the last time I checked, Bashar Assad, he may be a ruthless dictator, but he has not threatened or attacked the United States. Is Syria none of our business? Should we just get out of Syria?
I think that the ultimate resolution to Syria needs to come from those who live there, who live in the surrounding countries, and not from us. And if we are to be there, we have to vote. That's my point of view. Congress should have to vote on whether we're there. We have never declared war against the Assad regime, and it is complicated. The side of the war that we were supporting involved many jihadists, many members of al-Qaeda, and actually members of ISIS. You'll remember that Hillary Clinton sent an email to Podesta, and in that email she said, my goodness, we have to do something. Saudi Arabia and Qatar are supplying weapons directly to ISIS. And so this is a real problem. On the other side of the war, you have about 1 million Christians, and they are defended by Assad. And so it doesn't make Assad a good person, but it makes it a complicated situation where for years now we've supplied arms to jihadists who have no tolerance for Christians. And on the other side, you have Assad, who isn't a great believer in human rights or any kind of constitutional rights, and yet he defends the minority Christians in his country. So, no, I don't think we do have a side that we should choose in that civil war. We need to be talking about our own national security, our own vital national security, and not necessarily getting involved in every civil war around the world.
Senator, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you at least one question on James Comey. He's got his book out, No Higher Loyalty. He's doing a book tour. He's plugging his book. He's criticizing the president. His memos have now been released. I have to ask you, the evidence now shows that he lied when he said he wasn't a leaker. He was a leaker. He did leak classified information and material to the media through his friend to get the appointment of a special counsel, Robert Mueller. What should the president do regarding Robert Mueller? And what do you make of James Comey's book and now his blatant partisan attacks on the president?
I think James Comey will go down in history as the worst FBI director we've ever had. And the reason I say that is that he politicized the agency, first by making public pronouncements and press releases about Hillary Clinton, and then by politicizing the agency by going after Donald Trump. So, no, I think he's really done great damage to the FBI. The FBI needs to be a police agency that we can trust, and for the most part, we can. I think the local FBI agents are good people, but we need to trust them not to be abusing the office, not to searching databases because you're a Trump supporter or a Republican or a conservative, and I think we've lost that trust. And so one of the things James Comey said in his book that was particularly troubling to me is he said that he felt like that it was the job of law enforcement institutions that were established to keep our leaders in check. Think about that for a minute. He thinks that the FBI's job is to keep our leaders in check, when it's really completely the opposite. It's supposed to be politicians, as representatives of the people, are supposed to keep our intelligence agencies and police forces in check. He actually sees the police force of the FBI as an agency that should keep the president in check. That is so absolutely backwards that it should scare every American.
Oh my God, it's chilling.
A guy at the head of the FBI who believes that his job was to keep the president in check.
I mean, he's almost defining a police state. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, it's very, very, very worrisome that we had that. But it's not only that. We had John Brennan at the head of the CIA, who also now has come out to be a huge partisan and a hater of the president. We had James Clapper, who lied to the Senate committee. So these people think they're above the law. Then it turns out we find out not only do they think they're above the law and they can look at Americans' data with impunity, it turns out they're huge partisans and haters of President Trump. So, yeah, this is exactly why when I talked to the president this week and I got a chance to have a personal conversation, I said, we need to do something to make sure that the FBI has to obey the Fourth Amendment and they have to ask a judge before they go snooping on Americans.
Senator, I only wish you could see the text machine. It is burning up with people supporting you. Did I say president, Mr. President? Did I say that? Oh, sorry. I think I'm telegraphing 2024 here. Senator, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As always, dynamite stuff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Senator. All right, Senator Rand Paul, believe me, making a lot of news here. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. He says that James Comey destroyed the FBI, the worst FBI director we absolutely ever had. Comey said it was his job to keep the politicians in check. He also talked about Syria, saying it was none of our business. Do you agree with him on Syria? What do you think about what he said about Afghanistan, that it's time for us to pull out and have a negotiated settlement? 617-266-6868 is the number. Your reaction to Senator Rand Paul. And would you vote for him in 2024? Your calls next. That was Senator Rand Paul in an exclusive newsmaker interview, and believe me, he let it all hang out. Okay, my friends, so let me ask you this. Is Rand Paul correct? James Comey, is he the worst FBI director we've ever had? And he says Syria is none of our business. Let's get the hell out. Afghanistan, negotiated settlement. Let's get the hell out. Is Rand Paul correct? Do you stand with Rand? 617-266-6868. And let me throw one more log on the fire. I think Trump is going to get reelected in 2020. That's just my personal opinion. The economy is booming. He has smashed ISIS. You clearly now see this country is back on its feet. And I think no matter what happens in the midterm elections, Trump, I think, will prevail. That's just my sense and my opinion. Who would you like to see as the successor to President Trump? Is it Rand Paul? Is this now slowly becoming Rand Paul's moment on the national surveillance state, on the need to restore our Constitution, on the need for us to start retrenching in foreign affairs and focusing on problems here at home, rolling back the power of the deep state, restoring civil liberties and privacy? These are the big issues that animate Rand Paul. Is he the kind of small government conservative that you can support in 2024? 617-266-6868. Jerry on the Cape. You're up next. Go ahead, Jerry.
Comrade.
How are you, my friend?
I am well. Jim, Jeff, you know what? Jim Comey got the title of his book wrong. It should be A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies, and Leadership. My Life Inside the Deep State by James Comey. He was a little off. What an idiot he is. He is an idiot. You know, he doesn't realize that he's given Congress all the ammunition from that book to go against everything he testified to. He is a dummy, Jeff. These people are stupid, you know. Jeff?
Well, I mean, and Jerry, I mean, I won't cut you off, I promise, but you make such a brilliant point. I mean, there he is having testified under oath that he never leaked anything, and in his book, he's admitting that, in fact, he was leaking to get a special counsel appointed. So we know he's a liar, we know he's a leaker, we know he's a criminal. My only question is, why isn't he behind bars, him and Andrew McCabe?
Well, there's a bunch of them that, Jeff, it's all going to happen, my friend. It's all coming in good time. All the ducks are being put in a row. But just remember one thing, Jeff. In regards to Iran, there's a lot about that deal we still don't know about, you know. And we've been lied to about it. So the president is going to do his best on that. That's next. But, Jeff, the loudest voices against the president have the most to hide. Remember that. Remember that. And there's a lot going on. They want to control the narrative and the messaging, the deep state does. They're in panic mode right now, Jeff. Did you see all the people that were arrested when you were on vacation last week?
Which people were arrested?
The people from Backpage.com.
No, sorry, I was in Aruba. I was kind of in and out in terms of the news.
Did you hear about the Nexium sex cult that was busted?
The sex cult, yes, that one I heard about.
Tied to Hillary.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And one of the biggest donors to the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that, comrade.
Allison Mack, the actress that was arrested, Jeff, she's singing like a canary, ratting out all of our Hollywood friends. Isn't that nice?
So you see, Jerry, this is what happens when you go to Aruba for a week, huh? Yeah, you miss the protesters, the arrests, the sex cult. You know, this is why I need a week off once in a while just to recharge my batteries. Because honestly, it gets depressing. It really does. Okay, John in Watertown, you're up next. Go ahead, John.
No, Jeff, you don't need to recharge your battery. You need to know a few things or look at another view, and I know you're good at figuring things out. Because I live in Watertown again. I told you what I said about the Syrians. Now, I'll tell you about Ron Paul and Rand Paul. I don't trust them because they take an oath to obey the Constitution. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you also take an oath to the Constitution when you became a citizen?
Yes.
Okay, then but I didn't. But I got to hold your feet to the fire.
Okay.
In the Constitution, it says Congress should create the money, not a private corporation called the Federal Reserve. So until they attack the Federal Reserve, I don't trust them.
Well, I mean, you know, Ron Paul, his father, is dead set against the Federal Reserve. He's written books against it.
Oh, no, it sounds good. I got all his... He used to send out a newsletter. You're right, Jeff. I got all his newsletters. But guess what? Is it window dressing? But who ever said, let's not have a balance sheet, let's get rid of the Federal Reserve? Kucinich, your brother Croatian, he said that. And guess what happened to him? Do you know what happened to him?
What happened to him?
Okay, because he was on the mainstream stage, you got to shut him up. So instead of killing him, they gerrymandered.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They were redistricting and gerrymandering, and they basically pushed him off. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis Kucinich. No, but John, let me ask you this. John.
When Kennedy tried to get rid of the Federal Reserve, they killed him.
John, let me ask you this. My understanding of Rand Paul's position is this. Now, you may disagree, but he wants to, step one, audit the Federal Reserve. And the reason why is, once you audit the Federal Reserve, you're going to expose all of its massive corruption and abuse of power.
We know what they do.
No, but I mean, he wants an official audit, so it'll be for everybody in the country to see. And then his position is, hold on, John. Then his position is, once you audit it, the American people will be so sickened by it, then he's going to push to end it. In other words, abolish it. A two-step attack. What do you say to that?
The first thing is, they're not going to. I'll tell you what happened. The guy that both of us don't like, okay, Bernie Sanders, okay? We know he's a socialist, okay? But no one seems to have noticed this. I saw him, so no one can say it's someone else's opinion. On television, okay, he was interviewing Bernanke, and at that time he was in charge of the Federal Reserve. He had heard somehow that $2 trillion left this country, okay, with no explanation. And he didn't tell him, and he says, I don't have to. So a balance sheet is just spinning your wheels. Get rid of it, because we know if you've read that book, the tape that I told you, the Money Masters by Bill Still, you'd understand in every detail why it's so bad.
Oh, John, listen, look, you don't need to convince me. The Federal Reserve is a monster. I hate the Federal Reserve. We should never have created it. It's been an absolute disaster. To me, end the Fed today. I'm with you on this 100%. 617-266-6868. Okay, more with your calls next. $1:38 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends. A lot to talk about. We were going to have Congressman Matt Gaetz on at 2:05 today. However, he's not going to be able to make it. He will be on Thursday. We'll be discussing the Comey memos and many other things. Trust me on this. But before I talk about Comey and what's going on now with Russia collusion, Robert Mueller, the lawsuit by the DNC against the Trump administration, against Russia, against WikiLeaks. There is a huge media story that the mainstream media is deliberately trying to bury. And that is, of course, the story involving MS Left BC's Joy Reid. I call her Joyless Reid because she's such a bitter woman, really, honestly. She's joyless, she's bitter, she's grim, she's angry. She was a huge Obama supporter and now has become basically a rabid conspiracy theorist, angry, embittered. She loathes Trump. She's part of the anti-Trump resistance at MS Left BC. Well, she has now been caught in a major scandal. And just to set the context for it, she is, of course, a prominent African-American liberal, a member of the hard left, the Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders left. And for years, she had her own blog called The Reid Report. Well, this is now common knowledge. Joy Reid, this is beyond dispute, wrote a lot of comments against homosexuals, against same-sex marriage, and against gay rights. That there's a huge paper trail that leads back to her and to her blog. Well, now they have discovered some even more outrageous material, stuff that we had never heard of before. And one of them is her going on about how homosexual sex, according to her, is gross. That, as she puts it, straight men would be revolted and grossed out by the sight of two men kissing. And that it's only natural for straights to find gays or homosexual sex to be utterly disgusting and gross. Her words, not mine. She goes on to say that there is massive opposition to the gay movement and that that's only natural. And that she forgives society for being so opposed to homosexuality and to the gay rights movement because, according to her, most people find it unnatural and disgusting. And it goes on and on and on and on. Page after page after page after page. She even admits that in the black community, that they really frown upon gay rights, they frown upon homosexuality and lesbianity, and that they want no part of it, and that they shouldn't have any part of it. So, again, these are her words, not mine. Now, you would think that a scandal like this would be the end of Joyless Reid's career. Well, she has now come out and said that somebody hacked into the Reid report of 10 years ago and kind of massaged the material, according to her, and made it a little bit more outrageous than when she originally wrote it. In other words, that it was doctored or manipulated. Even the far-left Mediaite blog has openly come out and said it's practically impossible for somebody to have done it because the blog has been dormant for nearly a decade. And that there are no signs at all that anybody came in and actually changed any of her material. So you even have far-left blog sites saying, we don't believe this. So what's going on now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but hacking has now become the modern-day version of my dog ate my homework. It's like the catch-all excuse. Whenever there's something going on, they go, oh, well, I was hacked. Well, that wasn't my Twitter account. Somebody hacked it. That wasn't my Facebook. That wasn't my Facebook post. Somebody hacked it. No. Somebody hacked our website. No, that wasn't us. Somebody hacked it and pretended to be me. That's now the shtick that people try to use to get away from having accountability and responsibility for what they said. And nobody's really buying it. Even many on the left are not buying it, but it doesn't matter because MSNBC, NBC completely stand behind Joy Reid. They will do nothing, they say, to reprimand her, discipline her, never mind fire her. And my question to you is this, and it's an obvious one. Just flip it. Imagine if I had said that. I'm gone. I'm gone. I am out of here so fast, my career is destroyed, never to be resurrected again. Imagine if Sean Hannity said that, or Tucker Carlson said that, or Laura Ingraham said that, or Judge Jeanine Pirro said that, or Mark Levin said that, say on his show on Fox on Sunday nights. Imagine if a Fox News host, a Fox host personality, said anything approaching what Joy Reid had said. Just common sense. Homosexual sex is gross. It's disgusting. No society should tolerate it. We should have nothing to do with it. We have every right to be revolted and disgusted by it. Imagine if anybody on Fox News said what Joyless Reid said. Gone. Their careers would be destroyed so fast, they'd be yanked off the air so fast, your head would spin. But instead, when it comes to Joyless Reid, the hypocrisy, the double standards. I mean, it's so flagrant, it's so obvious, it's so blatant that the whole world can now see it. So essentially, if you're an African American woman who happens to be an ultra liberal, you can pretty much say or do anything and get away with it. If you're an African American woman who happens to be conservative or Republican, i.e. diamond and silk, then you're banned from YouTube. You're banned from Facebook. You're banned on Twitter. But if you're an African American uber liberal, if you're a leftist, hey, you can say anything that's homophobic, blatantly homophobic, no problem. No problem. Which shows that for the left in this country, okay, let's talk Turkey. For the left in this country, they don't care ultimately about homophobia or gay rights or the LGBTQ community, because if they did, Joyless Reed would now be on the unemployment line. Because the standards of censorship that they impose upon everybody else, they would be imposing upon Joyless Reed. So it's pretty obvious to me that they don't really care. What they do care is that they want to use it as a cudgel, as a stick, as a hammer, to go after their perceived political opponents. That's what this is all about. Can you use it to muzzle, intimidate, bully, or silence the opposition? Can you use it to destroy conservatives or anti-leftists? That's it. That's all. That's what you're seeing now with Joyless Reed. And so the Kelly Financial Services poll question du jour, as the French would say, of the day. Should Joy Reid be fired for her homophobic comments? A yes, B no. You can vote online on Twitter at my Twitter account at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner at the Kuhner Report, or you can vote at WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. We're going to give you the poll results. And I've got to say on this question, the Kuhner man is genuinely torn, genuinely split in half. Half of me says, yes, fire her ass. The other half says to me, no, let her stay. So here is my inner conundrum, and then I want to ask you, 617-266-6868. The libertarian in me, the conservative in me, the constitutionalist in me, the lover of liberty and freedom in me, believes what I do believe in my heart, in my soul, which is we live in a free society, and you can be free, and you should be free to say anything you want to say, no matter how offensive it is to anybody. Unless you're openly inciting violence, unless you're calling for people to kill somebody or kill some group or whatever, then to me, you should be allowed to say whatever you want to say. And if you don't like it, you just turn the dial. Turn the channel, don't watch her show, and eventually the free market will decide, her ratings will decline, the advertisers will dry up on their own, and she'll be off the air. Let the market decide. However, but that's my real me, deep down. However, the other half of me, the political half, the persecuted half, the conservative that's been attacked by the left half, says, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. If this was anybody else, if this was a conservative, if this was Jeff Kuhner, if this was, I don't know, Michael Savage or Mark Levin, as I mentioned, or Tucker Carlson or whoever, doesn't matter, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, that person would be out of a job. Because this is how the left rolls. They go around destroying people and destroying their careers based on opinions or beliefs that they hold, saying that it's offensive. It's either bigoted, it's sexist, it's misogynistic, it's Islamophobic, it's homophobic, it's whatever, transphobic, everything is phobic. So, well, based on their logic, based on what they've imposed on others, well, I'm sorry now, censorship and political correctness is a two-way sword. It goes both ways. So if you're going to destroy others, then I'm sorry, Joy Reid has to go. So literally half of me says, let her peddle her homophobic nonsense. The other half of me says, nope, sorry. What's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. So my question to you is this. Should Joy Reid be fired for her homophobic comments? And let me throw one more log on the fire. Why are people on the radical left allowed to say some of the most outrageous, insulting, offensive comments and be allowed to get away with it that others on the right can't? Is there a blatant double standard, and why? Where is the LGBTQ community? 617-266-6868. Your calls next. Glenn on the South Shore. Go ahead, Glenn.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hey, Glenn. How are you, buddy?
I am good. How are you?
Good. So it says on the board that you kind of disagree with the Kuhner man. Go ahead, Glenn.
I just don't think you should feel afraid, Jeff, to say something. You believe in free speech in America. I feel bad that you should. I know you're a celebrity and you're a talk show host, and I don't want you to lose your job by saying the wrong thing. But, you know, what this woman said, Joy Reid, you know, as bad as it is, it's still free speech, Jeff, right?
No, I agree with you. No, Glenn, honestly, I agree with you.
You know, I mean, how is what Shania Twain said the other day even come close to what she said? And they're tearing her to shreds.
Glenn, I'm just curious. We know why the media does it, because they're full of double standards. We know that.
Oh, yeah,
but the LGBTQ community, I'm being honest now. You know, if I said something like that, I mean, they would be, forget Shania Twain, they'd be lynching me really outside of here in Brighton on Guest Street. I'd be lynched from a lamp pole if I said what she said.
Of course.
Joyless Reid says it, and it's crickets. Glenn, they're not saying anything. Nothing.
Jeff, to me, the way I was brought up, words without action, it means nothing to me. Nothing. People spew out stuff all the time. You know, people say, I'm going to kill you. Do they really mean it?
No.
Half the time, probably
No,
not.
most of the time they don't.
No. I mean, people say stupid stuff all the time. They got to, this PC stuff, it's got to stop, too. It's got to stop, Jeff.
I mean, do you know how many times Brittany says she's going to kill me? I mean, at least 3 to 4 times a day. In fact, Glenn, I swear, okay, true story. I'm coming into the building today. Brittany, of course, is getting everything ready for the show, the stories, the clips, everything. I'm walking down the hallway, and I see like a little kind of a shorter, redheaded person right around the corner, and I'm like, is that Brittany? And I swear, there's a middle finger that just pops out into the hallway. And I go, that's Brittany giving me the freaking middle finger. You don't see me running to management, Glenn. You know what I'm saying?
I've heard worse too, Jeff. Without action, it means nothing.
I agree with you, Glenn. Thank you for that call. Brett in Honolulu, Hawaii. Brett, thanks for holding and welcome.
Aloha, Jeff.
Aloha, mahalo, my friend.
You are my Radio Free America here in the Democratic Socialist state of Hawaii.
All right, Brett, you've got 1 minute. I got only 1 minute before the break.
Okay.
The floor is yours. Go.
I want to push back on our comrade. Comey's not an idiot. Comey knows what he's doing. He is flaunting he believes he's untouchable and nobody's going to do anything to him. He doesn't care. He's just like the Clintons. They think they're untouchable.
So basically, you think Comrade Jerry is wrong. You think Comey's going to get away with everything.
I think so. I think he probably knows that he has people that are out there that will come to his defense, and he's playing that, the victim card like all the left does. And as far as Joy Reid goes, I won't give her the time of day.
No, me neither. Me neither. Speaking of Comey, my friends, I've got a bombshell for you next.
The voice of Boston is you. 680 WRKO Boston, 100.7 WZLX HD2 Boston, an iHeart radio station.